Zan Monroe, what's going on, brother?
Brother Bryan's been a good week, man.
You know what? I heard you had a good week, and I'm looking forward to a little bit later learning some more about all the things that you and Cameron did this week.
Yep. I had played the best round of golf in my life this weekend.
Really? Now I got to ask you really quick. What did you shoot?
Yep. I shot an 88.
Really?
Yep.
In the mountains. In the mountains.
You've seen me play golf, so you know that was good for me.
That's very good. I'm sitting there thinking that in the mountains, playing golf in the mountains is different. When you grow up like we did in the sandhills, right? It's different playing in the mountains, brother.
It is.
It's
different playing down low, but caught some fish, had a good week. But we got Mark Given tonight, and we got to get right to him because he's got a ton of stuff for us.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to catching up with Mark. It's been a while since we've seen him, so let's jump over there, and I'll see you on the flip side.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
So, love to welcome a good friend and our good friend Mark Given to the show this evening. Mark Given is an international speaker, author. He's written 10 books in his career. And the fun part about it is every time he writes a new book, he sends it to my wife. He doesn't send them to me because I've only written 2 books. He sends every new book to my wife with a little note that says, just read this to Zan while he's trying to go to sleep. And that's what she does. Listen to what Mark has to say this time. Mark Given, good friend and a fisherman. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I got several lures right here.
Oh, that makes me happy.
I got some, look, here's a brand new bass jig I got. Haven't thrown that in the water yet, a little minnow that's getting ready to go in. And this is probably my favorite right now. It's a little chartreuse crankbait that I'm going to hit some big ones on this one.
I'm going to make you one. I've got that blank sitting in my shop. I'm going to make you one of those, and I'm going to send that to you. I want you to take a picture of what you catch on it, right?
That's a deal.
Yeah,
that's
I want you to do that.
Deal. That's absolutely a deal. So
I got 2 thoughts before you get started I want to ask you about. Number one, I picture whenever Zan says that Laura's in bed reading the books that you and she have schemed ahead of time and said, all right, we got to figure out how we can show Zan how to be successful. So we're going to do this through osmosis. I'm going to write these books on success. So I picture Laura reading this and both of you are going, we got to help them. We got to help them. So I picture that's probably the reason why you do that.
That's probably what's going on.
Hey, keep trying. Keep trying for me, Mark, right?
Well, it's really not about writing 10 books or 5 books or 30 books. It's about getting out the information that you know would be what you believe would be beneficial, would be helpful. So it's not about selling thousands of books or 5 books. It's about delivering value in some way to people that can benefit from it, trying to find those that are seeking. And so all I do when I send those to Laura is just to get Zan motivated to know that he can't stop. He's not ready to retire.
No, he's not. And it's look, I'm glad that between me, you, and a couple other folks, we're going to get him where he needs to be one day. So I appreciate you doing that. All right.
Well,
I'm like the country song. I'm a work in progress.
That's a true statement.
Well, aren't we all? Aren't we all? Yeah, you know. But isn't that what you do when you want to help people you care about? So it's not in any way to say, look at me. It's Zan. Look, I'm not that smart. If I can do this, then you can do it. So just get on it, right?
There's a theme going on here. See, we got trust-based networking, trust-based leadership, trust-based success. You picking up a theme here? Trust-based selling, trust-based time management. Mark, what's your platform like? Trust-based stuff?
Yeah, you think I'm interested in talking about building trust and a whole bunch. A couple years ago, I had the joy of meeting Jack Canfield, And of course, he's the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So my whole principle right now, is silly as it may be, is, hey, you know what? That worked for Jack, and he delivered valuable messages in all these different themes. Well, trust is such an important principle. Why in the world couldn't I write about trust like Jack did, right? And he got help, though. I'm doing this on my own, but you know, the reality of it is, why not deliver it in different topics that people might be seeking? My newest book is Trust-Based Entrepreneur, and you know, proven ways to build a business and reduce your stress. So, and I wrote that. That's finished. It's in the can, right? It's in the editing, final editing. The cover's done. Everything. I'm just waiting.
My wife will be reading it soon.
Very soon, probably within 30 days. Yeah.
I'm gonna call Zan about 11:30 one night, and he's gonna go, "Hello." I'm gonna say, "What are you doing?" I'm listening, not to Mark on tape,
To Laura.
to Laura reading Mark's books.
Yeah. And I wrote this one with my oldest son, who's just turned 40 this year.
Wow.
And building businesses. He's doing great. You know, he's struggling through building businesses like we do. And I just told him, I think it's time for you to write something, because there's value in writing. And so not just from, you can sell a few books, but when you have to say it and you have to put it in words, and you know that people may read it, you better be right on what you're saying. And so anyway, I'm really proud of him. He wrote half, I wrote half. It's getting ready to come out anytime. And that'll be the next one. And that won't, Zan, it won't be the last one.
No, it will not. There is no doubt.
Well, I got one other question for you before we get knee deep into this. I'm showing this picture right now. Now, I got to ask you, how in the world do you end up with a hook? I mean, listen, you're showing me all these lures. You love to fish, but you got a hook in your nose. I got to hear this story.
You know, you talk about life lessons.
Yeah, that's one, brother. I can tell you
Bryan, there are some life lessons you only want to learn one time. So, but here's one life lesson that I will never, ever step away from. Anytime I can get in my little bass boat and take one of my kids or one of my grandkids, those are cherished times for me. And so the short story on this is, I took one of my sons and a nephew who was in town. I live up in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. So we went up to Lake Gaston, and I wanted to make sure that they caught a fish. So I bass fish. I like to bass fish. And so I was on the front of the boat, running my trolling motor, sitting in my comfortable seat, you know, just casting out. And I had told my son and my nephew to stay on the back of the boat, and I bought them crickets. And so I had all them rigged up, right, with some bobbers and small hooks, told them to stay at the back of the boat. Well, I'm just casting away. And all of a sudden, just out of the blue, I see this swish that goes by my face. And I thought, oh, what was that? And it didn't take but a second to find out, because in another second, boom, that hook was right smack dab in my nose. And so there's actually two pictures, one with a cricket on it, right on my nose, and another one when I cut the line. I tried to pull, you know, actually you're supposed to push it through, but it was in the cartilage. And so I know that's kind of, but anyway, so I cut the line, took the cricket off, and of course I called my oldest son and said, come get me, take me over to Quick Care. I can't get this hook out of my nose. And you should have seen me really coming off the lake, because I was heading towards the pier and other fishermen were coming, you know, and I'm covering up my face, embarrassed by this hook sticking out of my nose. And so it's a lesson that it was a little bit painful, and I don't really want to experience that again. Although the truth is, as much as I go fishing, eventually I'm going to get a hook again.
Somewhere.
Hopefully it won't be in my eye or my nose or my lip. You know,
I have spent many hours on a boat. I've seen people with hooks in their earlobes. I have seen people with hooks in their feet where they stepped on a lure. I've seen them in their hands. I have never seen somebody
They're
with a
doing-
hook in the side of their nose. And so I said, I gotta see this. So
I gotta
and
tell you,
the thing is, you are smiling, Mark. You're smiling in this picture.
when I got to Quick Care, you know, you walk in, what are you going to say? I mean, there's a hook in your nose. So I walk up to the counter, and the young guy, it was a young man there that was, you know, got to fill out all the mess. And he said, "How can I help you, sir?"
You should have said, I got a little back pain.
How can I
Man,
help
I'm
you?
good.
Come on, man. Are you looking at me? You know, so.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's just another piercing, man.
Oh yeah.
Just
This
say, hey, you know what?
happens every day, right?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Well, look, I saw that, and I appreciate the fact that you enjoy fishing. I know Lake Gaston. I would absolutely love to. Not that I invite myself anywhere, as you can see from every episode. I've never done
Every week he does this.
so, but I will say
I
to
get to
you
go along.
that, the stripers in Roanoke River, up in the area that you live in, it's a beautiful place to fish. We'd love to do that. And again, I'll tell you that you and Zane are welcome to come offshore, but it's a trade. If you come offshore with me,
Absolutely.
but I'm wearing a face mask if I go with you.
No, it's okay. I will warn you if that sun is in the boat.
All right, I
Other than that,
appreciate it.
You know, I've never hooked anyone, including I've really never even hooked myself, except you know I've gotten one in my clothes before.
Yeah.
But I've never gotten in any flesh. I will tell you about rock fishing because it's almost rock fishing season here.
Yeah.
Obviously, Weldon and the Roanoke River is called the Rockfish Capital of the world.
Exactly.
We have people that come in from all over the world, and if you hit it at the right time, it's actually not fishing; it's actually just catching.
Mhm.
Because they've changed the rules this year a little bit, so it might be a little bit different. But and I haven't gotten out there yet. It's tough on the weekends because there are too many boats in the water. But on the weekdays in the evening, great time to go. And I actually would love it. Been wanting to get Zan up and to go rock fishing too, because it really is fun. And you don't catch rockfish like you catch there in the ocean.
Yeah.
But obviously they're coming up from the ocean. But we'll catch 5, 10, pound.
Look, and the other thing is that is a really, I don't think people realize just how tasty that fish, that they are delicious. So
yeah.
I've caught several off of hatters that were in the 25, 30 pound class. I've caught them in Santee down in South Carolina, and they were in the 10 to 15 pound class. But I've heard stories of the area that you just described, and I would love to do that. But there's nothing better to me than black and rockfish.
Yeah.
Is absolutely incredible. So hey, look, I don't know if you know this, but I could sit here and have this conversation for a while. But I think we got some other things that we want to hit. But I'm excited. I'm even more excited now because when you get finished with the segment, we're exchanging phone numbers.
Yeah.
That's a deal. That's a deal.
I always blame Bryan for soliciting everybody to go fishing, but then I get to go along, so I'm happy with it.
Let him do the work. You get all the fun.
I'm gonna tell you something on this, and there's lessons everywhere, right? There's lessons everywhere, and fishing, to me, you always learn something. And I had shared with Zan, and I hope you're okay. I'm gonna share a quick story with you, because I'm really excited about you talking about success and leadership and the things that you've got. This past weekend, I took my 17-year-old with me. Now, she's fished with me forever, but she's never been out really in the ocean, timing or things on that line. So it was just me and her this weekend. We left right at daylight. It was pretty. The wind wasn't blowing that much. I knew that it was going to blow up about 11 o'clock. So we're about 11, 12 miles offshore and starting to come back in, and it blew up. I mean, I was not expecting it to blow up like it did. The wind was like 5 miles that morning, an hour that morning, and all of a sudden we're at 20 miles an hour, and we're driving dead into the waves, dead into the wind. And I looked at her, and Mark, this is cool. You talk about lessons. I looked at her and I said, "Are you good?" 17 years old, she looks me dead in the eye and she said, "Are you good?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, then I'm good." You are the captain of this boat. If you are not good, that's when I worry. All of a sudden, I got to thinking about people that are in leadership positions that work for me across the country, people that I work for, and people that look to me. We're the captain of our boats and our ships, right? If we're not good, that create whatever emotion we're experiencing, that's creating that emotion. So I wanted to share with you that one of the reasons I love fishing is not just the thrill of fishing and being able to escape, but the daily life lessons that you can learn from that sport. And I thought that was a pretty cool little story. That happened this past Saturday. I thought that was pretty cool.
Trust. You just gave us a trust story.
Hey,
That's right.
yeah, Zan, hey, look, put it in your book so Zan can hear that story again one night about 11:30.
I heard a story from my friend Bryan Wright. And
Read by my wife out of a book from Mark Given. Yeah, that would be the ultimate.
Yeah. All right, Zan, I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes and take some notes. Thank you for letting me do that, Mark.
Oh, absolutely. Great
So
story.
Mark, we talked earlier this week and you were wanting to give us 7 keys for business success. That's what you had, we had talked about. 7 keys. So those of you taking notes, I've got mine ready. Mark, tag, you're it. 7 keys for business success.
Let me see. Can you see this?
7 keys to business success.
And you probably can't see it very well, but I actually wrote them down so that I could make sure I didn't get them wrong and out of order, because I want them in order. So I don't know how well you can see that, but I wrote it on my little chart right here so that I can keep an eye on. So here's the 7 keys. Excuse me.
This will be a new book, Bryan. So
it actually could be in a book, that's for sure. I won't say that they're specifically in order, because it could vary based on the individual needs of the person that's trying to create some kind of level of success in their life. But I will say that, let me just start with number 1 that was on the list, excuse me, that you saw, and it said a powerful brand. And I don't mean necessarily that you have to have a brand that is a big name brand, but what I mean is you got to create some brand. If you go in Walmart, as an example today, or any grocery store, there you go, a brand. That's exactly right.
It's got to be a brand you can trust in.
It's got, yeah, there you go. I mean, if you walked into the condiment section in Walmart, as an example, you would find on a shelf right there together the Great Value salt, and you'd find the Morton salt as an example, and Himalayan pink salt. Okay. Now, what's interesting about that is that if you're there to buy salt, they're going to buy, the people that walk in, they're going to buy some kind of salt. Now, if they have such a confidence in Morton salt, they'll pay 50% more. And to me, salt is salt. I'm sure there's somebody that's going to be on the show, right, that's listening, says, no, Mark, salt is not salt. There's different kinds of salt. Well, that may be true. But to me, salt is salt. And what's interesting is you can buy the cheap salt, you can buy the Morton salt, or you could buy the Himalayan pink salt and pay even probably twice what you'd pay for Morton. And what the interesting point is on brand is that, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the brand that people will pay you for because they see perceived value? Or do you want to just be the low end and there's so many more competitors? If you don't build a brand that has value, perceived value by the customer, you're going to struggle making the kind of profit that you want, the kind of money. There's a difference between income and profit, right? The gross and net. But the point is, I would rather be so niche, focused in on who it is I'm seeking to do business with, that I build a brand around that, so that I'm the Himalayan pink salt, and everybody's not going to buy me, and I haven't got to deal with all the people that are just looking for somebody, right, that can be like the basic salt out there. I want to be perceived as better. So that's number 1. You got to decide who your customer is and who do you want. And you need to build a brand around that. So that's one. Number two then is a culture.
Wait a minute before you leave
Oh,
that.
yeah. You ask me anything you want.
One of the points is if you pick one of those brands, you're always giving up another kind of customer.
Oh, absolutely.
See, once you establish yourself, then you've got to be willing to give up the customer that doesn't fit that profile, because it's like, you know, if you become the Himalayan pink salt of the world, you've given up the cheap buyer because he's just going to buy cheap salt, and that's okay.
And you got to be okay with it.
You've got to be okay with it.
You know, Walmart has made $1 billion. They probably make many billions every year.
Or every day.
Right. But here's the point. Can you compete with that? And do you want to compete with that?
Bingo.
I would rather set my price with the ideal customer that I want. And they'll pay me. And that comes from building a brand. So I'm reading a great book. I laid it right here beside me, called The Common Path to Uncommon Success. It's by John Lee Dumas, and I would highly recommend this book. I mean, he really digs deep in this book on how to do those type things, how to get very focused on, you know, what it is you're trying to achieve, which is your brand. And
so I want to go back to, I was thinking very similar to what Zan just said, right? And I'm going to put this parallel for you. By the way, I agree with you to a certain degree, salt is salt. However, I was introduced to something called gunpowder salt, and it's actually black. It's a finishing salt. But I don't use it that often. When I go to the store, I buy regular salt. I don't care the brand, but I do have me a little black salt in my cabinet because it's different, right? And you want to be the Himalayan or the black salt. But here's my parallel. Check this out.
Right. I'm just suggesting that, you know, if you just are like everybody else, it's tough to compete.
Oh yeah, I agree. You got to separate yourself from all the noise out there. So here's the dilemma, and I'm going to use in my world's mortgage banking, right? So I run the Eastern Division for Union Home Mortgage, and what we do when I'm talking to a loan officer who's struggling and saying, "Listen, I've got some trouble files," typically what I have found. What you focus on expands, right? That their focus has been on the referral partners that are going to refer them all the difficult loans, right? And they say, "Oh, I've got all these pre-approvals coming in. Everything's good. My business is good," but it is wearing them out. A lot of times these are not good loans. They're not going to perform well, and they're having to spend more time fighting. Whereas making one adjustment in the mindset and not selling for that, instead of going with the generic brand, going with the Morton and starting to find in that, or the Himalayan, that the qualifications of the consumer went up, the loan amounts went up, the quality of life went up by making that mindset of which person that they wanted to be the brand for. And I don't care if you're in mortgage banking, real estate, logistics, whatever it is, it's that same philosophy. So when you said powerful brand, I was actually thinking you're talking about the brand name, but you went back and just said, you got to determine who you're going to be. I loved it. I loved it. So that's a great point.
So that's just number one. Number two is a culture. You've got to have an established culture out there that people have an emotional connection to you. They see the kind of person you are, the kind of things that you do. So this is not about what you sell or what your expertise is. It's really, culture is about the kind of individual you are, which reflects back on what I write about, which is trust. But I want to use the word culture because when you have a culture of providing value, service, you're a good person. I often talk about the difference between competence and caring. And the science really shows that when it comes to your personal culture and the way you run your business, that people choose, they choose this, you know, this goodness, this caring, that is more significant than competence. Now, we have to have competence. So we certainly have to have a level of expertise. We can't be, you know, incapable of accomplishing the goals of our clients and customers. But we need a culture to show that we're a giving person. There's a big difference between a giver and a taker. We want to be a giver. We want to be generous. We want to be offering constantly. So it's not always a pitch. It's a culture of care. And so two is culture. I mean, we want a good brand that people can say, hey, you know, they are competent. They know what the heck they're doing, and they're worth more money. But at the same time, we want to be known as, we have the kind of culture that we're a giving individual. So culture is important. If people don't have a level of trust in us that we're the kind of person that are more interested in their success than our own, then we'll lose a lot of opportunities that will just they'll just not come our way. And so brand, culture is number two. So, and you can add anything, or what do you think? Zan Monroe, you got any thoughts on that one?
Oh no, I like it. I like it just like it is.
Okay. All right. Well, good. The third thing then, let me go to number three, and that's legal protection. I mean, we live in a world today that if you're going to run a business, you've got to understand, not only are people quick to judge, or people are quick to criticize, people are quick to give their own opinion, but people are also quick to have you take blame and responsibility for their challenges and problems. So today more than ever, and I'm not an attorney, but I would suggest that you don't really want to be in business anymore doing much of anything without some kind of legal protection, so that you don't, if somebody accuses you or you're found responsible in some way, you don't lose everything you've got. Because, and granted, I'm not suggesting that you get legal protection so you can do anything you want.
Right.
I'm suggesting you get legal protection because we live in a litigious society now. More so than ever. And so whether it's a small business and you would have an LLC, limited liability corporation, or I'm not an attorney, I'm not a financial advisor. Bryan, that's more your world. And so I just know this, I don't feel comfortable even in the speaking world today, just traveling and speaking, without having a limited liability corporation. If I had a car accident and a rental car, if I said something that somebody thought I was being offensive, I need to protect my family from financial loss if somebody decides they want to, hold me responsible for something that I unintentionally was involved in. So that's really number three. I don't know that there's really a whole lot of discussion we need to have on that one, unless you guys have had a bad experience, and I hope you haven't. But, we need to be cautious. We live in a tough world today.
Well, my wife was in the commercial insurance world, so she's very astute with insurance. And part of the things for legal protection is insuring. And she always says you insure what you can't pay for. Yeah. So you've got to insure yourself for liability. And so talking to legal help and insurance help to make sure you're insured and legally protected. I like that.
And in that world, you would have advisors, the experts on that. So you'd have financial people, you'd have legal professionals, so that you could help make wise decisions in your investments and wise decisions in your legal protection. So that's number three. Number four is one that I don't know that people often say, but I don't think I could survive or even attempt to thrive without it. And that's a coach, mentors, and a mastermind. You need, let's start with a coach. I don't see, if you look out there in the world, whether it's athletics, whether it's in, well, there's no place that you can look that high performers don't have a coach of some kind. They have a coach. Some have more than one coach. And with the Olympics are coming up this year, can you imagine anybody making the Olympics without a coach? No. I mean, or multiple coaches. I mean, that's not going to happen. It's the same way in business. We need people that understand things, that have experiences on things that we just don't know. We don't know. Zan, you've said this. I heard you say this many years ago. We don't know what we don't know until we know what we don't know. right? That's a Zan Monroeism right there. And you don't know what you don't know until somebody like a coach can help you. So we need a coach, and whether it's a high paid coach, a short-term coach, you need some kind of coach, but you also need mentors. You need people that will love you enough to tell you the truth. Sometimes it can be painful to hear the truth from people that care about you. Mm-hmm. But you don't need just people that love you and always will tell you the good things. You need a mentor or mentors that will help you so that when you have a challenge or a problem, you can bump it by them and say, what do you think? They may not even have the experience that a coach would have. These are just people that you can call pretty much any time, and you can reach out to. You can take them to lunch easily, or you can spend a little time with them. I've considered Zan Monroe a mentor of mine for more than 15 years. We've played golf. We've gone and we've broken bread.
Traveled.
We've had, and how many phone calls have we had over the years? And Zan has never charged me for that.
Yeah. But the bill is in the corner.
Wait. I'm gonna have to have a conversation with Zan afterwards, because I got to figure out how I get the Mark Given discount.
That's right. I charge Bryan all the time.
I guess I shouldn't have brought that up. Sorry about that.
Hey, let me mention, before you get to Mastermind, I want to mention something to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess in episode of this, it would have been episode 4.
Yeah.
We had a gentleman on, and the name of that episode was The Power of Coaching. National coach, been a friend of mine for several years. Do you know, it was amazing the amount of people that actually reached out and said, I'm not in real estate. I'm not in mortgage banking, which we're glad that there's everything we talk about, I think, applies to everything, every industry out there, right? But that they knew that they needed a coach. So I'm so glad that you've emphasized that. I actually had, I do a coaching session twice a month with folks from all over the country. There's 2 groups of 4 in there, and I had those 2-hour sessions today. Then I have a coach that I meet with every other week. And then from a mentor standpoint, Zan's been the same way with me, and there's others that have been mentors in my life. And Mark, I can tell you that the success that you've had, the success that Zan has, and the success that I've had has not been because I woke up every morning motivated. I woke up every morning inspired, and I woke up every morning knowing exactly the right way to do things. I had to have somebody who told me, look me dead in the eye and say, listen, smart. And I like where you're going with this. And Zan, actually, he may not remember this. Zan told me, I guess it's probably been about the time that you and I were talking earlier when we ran into each other at Highland. But I said, I was asking Zan about something that I wanted to do. And he's like, yeah, when you're ready, I'll let you know. And it was that way of saying, hey, you're heading in the right direction, but you're not ready yet, brother. You're not ready. And you got to have somebody who loves you enough to tell you that. So I appreciate you hitting those 2. And I love masterminds, and you and I have been in some together. So go ahead.
Yeah. And so I would suggest that you find a group of people and a mastermind. And there's different ways to do masterminds. What I find is a good very different than a mentor. A mentor is a one-on-one thing. That's why it's good to have multiple mentors. And by the way, before I just really jump into mastermind, let me say, not only should you have a mentor, you need to be a mentor. You need to be a mentor. I mean, at whatever level you're at, there is always somebody that can benefit by what you've experienced. And if you really want to grow your mindset and you really want to understand, you'll be amazed at how much you'll learn by being a mentor, right? And just be a mentor to somebody. Find people you can mentor. And in other words, when somebody comes to you and they need your help, say yes. That's what I'm saying. Say yes. Take the call. Respond back to them. You'll be glad you did, and they'll benefit from it, and you'll benefit more than they'll probably ever benefit by being willing to give. So let's go to Mastermind. What I find works well is to have not too big of Mastermind, when you have a smaller group of 4 or 5 people, something like that. Now, there are formal mastermind groups out there that you can join and pay for, but you can organize your own mastermind around your mentors, where you would have conversations on a regular basis, where you would challenge each other, where you would hold each other to task, where you would be honest about your failures and what you're working on, or what you're really trying to achieve. A mastermind group will help you accomplish what you're trying to do. Bryan, you mentioned as we were just first starting at the very beginning, may not even have recorded that, but you went out to Colorado, right, to attend a session. And while you were there, I know that they taught you the benefit of a mastermind group, of having, a small group of people that you would meet with, and it's, how often do you want to? I mean, some masterminds meet every week. Some meet once a month. Some meet once a quarter. Some only meet a few times a year or once a year. But having a mastermind is going to help you. You cannot lose by being a part of a mastermind. You'll help other people, and I guarantee you they'll help you. And to express to you the benefit of this, on Friday, I have a mastermind session with a group of people that I'm in. And just to give you an idea, this mastermind Friday is going to start at 9 a.m. and we don't finish until 8 p.m.
Wow.
And I will be slam worn out.
Yep,
and I'll probably have 10 to 20 pages of notes, and I'll have enough to keep me busy for the next quarter until we get together again. And I will give them things that I'm working on, and they will give me things, and we will talk about, our experiences and our opinions, and we'll give our best opinion of what we think they should consider. And then they'll get to work, and then we'll get back together and hold each other to task. So I have another one just this week with my buddy Zan Monroe and a couple of other friends tomorrow afternoon.
We ought to bring Bryan into it.
We should. In fact, there's only 4 of us, so to have a 5th would not be a bad thing at all. So
I've got one this week too.
Good for you.
Yeah,
there must be a message here.
Yeah, so I've got some industry peers, and we're going to have a mastermind session about 70 miles offshore on Friday, and it's probably going to start about sunrise and last until we get worn out. But I promise you, in those sessions, and this is the point I'm making, right? You don't always have to be sitting in a big conference room. Being able to have a mastermind is looking at things from somebody else's eyes, in my mind, being able to glean something from them. So, hey, I want to be a part of your group because I've heard about this group, Mark, and I want to be a part of that sometimes. So keep me in mind. But I do hope both of those go very well.
So let me warn you ahead of the time. I am the least of these, my brethren. So,
Dan had told me that already.
Yeah, well,
I'm kidding. He didn't. I'm just playing with you.
I mean, I come to these sessions.
Yeah, look, I know who's in that group, and just to be able to hang out with you guys and be a part of the same airspace would be pretty awesome to me.
Well, we'd love to have you. I honestly go every time and feel like, what am I doing here? I'm surprised they let me keep coming back.
Well, we had met a couple of weeks ago, Bryan, and this mastermind group, and I don't know about you, Mark, but when I finished, I was like, every time I meet with this group, I'm like, oh man, I got to take my game up. I mean, way up to catch up with the rest of them. And that's what a mastermind group does. It breaks down everybody has this fence around their world, perceptual map. This is where I belong. Well, your mastermind group will break that fence down and go, you should be doing this kind of stuff. And you go, oh, I didn't realize I could go that high or run that far or do that good. So,
Dan, you've heard me say it. I call it popping your bubble, right? You live in this bubble, right, and life is so good in this bubble. Then somebody comes along and says, pop. And all of a sudden you realize you're in a bigger bubble. Yeah. And with time, that bubble gets huge, and people still want to come pop my bubble. But you're exposed to so many different things. That's what mastermind groups do. They should pop your bubble.
Amen. So, hey, that was number 4. Coach, mentors, mastermind group.
All right.
You will not go wrong with all three, and you need all three, and they have different responsibilities, and that you will gain differently from each. So that leads us to number 5, which is proof of superiority. In other words, there's always going to be somebody better than us out there, and we should be seeking that. That's why we use all the principles in number 4. But the reality of it is, to compete in the world of business today, you really have to be able to prove why people should choose you over the competition. So it's third-party testimonials are critically important to your success. It's not always, look at me, let me tell you what I've done. You want proof of superiority because other people have said it. And the more people say it, the better off you'll be. If you want to grow your business, you better prove to the world, or at least to those key people in number 1 that are seeking your brand, looking at number 2, your culture, you better prove to them right off the bat what these third-party testimonials, what they're saying. Hey, I've worked with you, or I've done business with you, or this is the reason why I would recommend all of my friends and acquaintances. So number 5 is proof. You need social proof. You need business proof. And
So
just saying it yourself is not good enough. It's got to come from other people.
I'm going to submit to you evidence to support your case. 2 examples. Number 1, I buy a lot of my product for lure making at 2 or 3 different websites. When I do, I sort it by reviews, and I go and read, and I'm looking at testimonials and the pictures, because I don't know something about this product, what experience other people have. Part 2 is we recently moved to Hampstead, so we're trying to learn some of these restaurants. Every restaurant we go to, my wife is on one of these, I can't remember the name of the websites.
Probably Yelp.
She's on Yelp, but there's another one about, it's something to do with traveling or something, but she'll check out all these websites, and she'll read all these reviews, and she'll say, this is where we need to go. It's this looks like a little hole in the wall, but it's a great place. If it were not for proof of superiority, if it were not for evidence of people telling us in a third-party testimonial, there's a lot of the product I never would have ordered, and there's probably some good food I'd have missed out on.
Which would be worse, missing out on the good food or missing out on the good product?
It'd be a coin toss. When Jennifer's out of town, I definitely don't want to miss out on the good food.
Right.
So we need proof.
Yeah.
We need proof, and we really need it from other places. I am so grateful that you guys would have me on the show today, because one of the things that I want to try to do is have the opportunity to be on as many shows just like yours as I can, because I need people just like you to have me on the show and say, hey, this is why we had Mark.
Yeah.
Because, if I say it, it just doesn't have any depth or meat to it. But if you say it, it has some value, because people trust you. They don't know me, but they trust you. I was just on a show from out of Australia. They don't know me in Australia, but if I ever want to have an opportunity to speak in Australia, to do some program in Australia, I need somebody that knows people in Australia, that people listen to in Australia, and I need him to say, hey, I brought Mark Given in, right? So those are all important principles. So that's number 5. Number 6, then, I believe that if you're going to have a business, you should build a business to sell your business. In other words, now everybody doesn't run a business of their own. So this is, I guess, more directed towards entrepreneurs. But if you're an entrepreneur, why in the world would you ever build a business to do anything but sell it? And if you do it right, then you'll have people to sell it. So what do you need to sell it? Well, there's a whole series of things, but the most important thing of all is profit. So number 6 is profit. There's a big difference between income and profit. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so you better be able to show that you are a profitable business. And if you're not profitable, well, you better become profitable. So nobody's going to have any interest in your long-term success. And because if they're going to buy their business, they want your long-term success that they can turn into their long-term success. In fact, they need to be able to do it better than you even do it. So simplicity is profit, right? Number 6 is profit.
Hey,
Gotta make some money.
Profit is not a biblical character.
Yeah.
It is what it's what you, and I was doing a consult this week with a guy who he's got 3 different people trying to purchase his business, and the business is structured so when you take him out, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
We didn't build it so that it's sellable.
It's got to be duplicatable.
It's got to be duplicatable.
Right? It's got to be duplicatable. So there's that's a whole nother show for you guys, right? That's a whole completely another show. And you know, I'd be glad to come back and talk about it, or you can get somebody else to talk about it. But just know that there's got to be somebody that can help your listeners understand that this is not PROPHET, right? This
Exactly right.
PROFIT with 2 exclamation marks. Profit.
You teach a class. You teach a course in this, don't you?
Yeah, and what's
You write
interesting,
a course?
I do. I actually wrote a real estate course on I didn't really like the name, so it went through the CRS, or the Residential Real Estate Council, and they just, I wanted to just call it an exit strategy, right? In other words, because that's the way I think of it. They decided to call it succession plan, which in all honesty, nobody understands what that means. So,
Isn't that a show on HBO?
yeah, that's right. But it's just an exit strategy. I mean, there's probably none of us, even though I'm a baby boomer, and I'm thinking, I don't know that I'll ever really retire, but at some point I'm going to slow down. At some point I cannot continue at the pace that I am on right now. And when that happens, I really should have positioned myself not to just walk away. And so I wrote a course about that, how not to walk away. You know, so I think it's beneficial, and yet it scares people to death, Zan, because when they recognize what it takes to really do it, there's a 4-letter word in there called work.
Yep.
And they're scared to death of doing what it takes to create a duplicatable business. So the ones that will do it, the ones that have taken the course over the last probably 4 years, I wrote it about 4 years ago. I'll get emails and calls on occasion from people who say, Mark, this is what, you know, I was in your class at X, and you know, I did the work, and now I've sold my business, and I want to thank you. Well, there's nothing to thank me for, really. They did the work, right? But you got to do some work. But if you're willing to do the work, you can build it and make it, take that profit and build some continued profit as you slow down and retire. So that leads to the last one that I wanted to share with you today, number 7, which is influence. It is without question in my mind that influence stands really for your sphere of influence, which would include your database. In other words, you've got to have some influence, positive influence out there in the world if you want to build a profitable business. And you need to recognize, I hope everybody will recognize, that no matter how much influence you have, some of those people will not be with you next year. We're going to always lose them. They'll move away, or they'll pass away, or somebody else has come along that maybe resonates with them more. And from time to time, we're going to have some shrinkage. So that means you constantly, that's the trust-based networking book. I mean, that's really what it's all about, is the fact that you constantly have to be building and networking. And that's easier for some people than others. But you have to create some positive influence out there in the world where people want to connect with you, and they want to be a part of you know, what you do and what you offer. And so sphere of influence, SOI, and your database. You should be constantly growing your database, because if you're not growing it, it's shrinking. And which means you have to work your database. You have to work your sphere of influence. You have to treat people well. You have to, you know, you have to stay in touch with them. You have to do all the things that show that you care about them, which goes all the way back up to the culture, right? It's the way you run your business, which makes you the kind of person people want to connect with. So those are the 7: powerful brand, culture that resonates, legal protection, Coach Mentors Mastermind, Proof of Superiority, Profit, and Influence.
That's cool.
Great stuff.
I think we could talk about all of these on a fishing boat in the Roanoke River catching stripers. What do you think?
I'd love that, because there's a lot more to talk about in all of this. I mean, we've talked about what it is. There's the doing part, and that's that's not the hard part. It's the fun part.
Look, we can work that out. But I just got to share something with you. I want to say it was either in point 5 or 6. I heard a term, or I heard a word that I heard on the first night that Zan and I did this show, Australia. And I'm going to say the same thing to you that I said to him that night, that when you get it worked out that you're going to speak in Australia, I have no problem being the guy that carries your bags. I have no problem being the guy, because on my bucket list, and I don't have many buckets on there, but on my bucket list, fishing Australia is one of those things. So here's what we have to make an educated decision on right now. We all talk about, all 3 of us, when we talk, we always talk about things like, you got to define that moment. You're the one who determines what's going to happen, right? So right here, we can have this conversation in that all 3 of us have a desire to go to Australia. All 3 of us have said, hey, it'd be great for us to have this conversation on a boat. So my question for you is, why are we not having this conversation on a boat in Australia?
And New Zealand. And New
Zealand, yeah, because that place is beautiful too.
Yeah. So I'm just telling you guys.
Okay. I hear you, brother.
This is the 7th week that we've done this, and I already have 7 excursions planned that I'm so excited about. I mean, so Australia is one of them now. I'm still going to go up to fish the Roanoke River with you, but I'm looking forward to Australia.
Well, and Australia has been on my list since I was 20 years old. And as a speaker and a writer and a fisherman, I'm first on the boat to get to Australia. My wife and I had
planned. You better run fast, brother.
we had planned a trip for 2021 until 2020 hit. Yeah. So we put everything on hold. But I've got to get over there. It's the only place I've never spoken. That and South Dakota are the two in the world that I haven't spoken that I need to speak. So we'll all pack up, go to Australia, and bring the show with us.
That'd be awesome. That's the one thing about this stuff today. You can do it from anywhere in the world.
That's right. That's right. Mark, if you would do me a favor, hang on after the segment. I have a couple of thoughts for you. But I absolutely enjoy. I mean, it's been great to see you again. I have enjoyed the 7 lessons, and I'm going to several of these as I'm going through. I'm sitting there thinking, when you said culture, I'm just going to hit this one really quick. When you said culture, you said really what I heard you say was being a good person, right? At the end of the day, we talk about it at our company all the time. We want to hire good people who happen to be mortgage bankers. Yeah. That stuff bleeds through, right? So if my rule is I will never hire I don't care what your production is. I don't care. I don't care how good you are at what you do. But if I can't work with you on your worst day, there's no need for me to hire you. Because without that, everything else is going to be messed up. Culture, to me, every one of these are important. But who you are as a person and who your company is as a person defines who your brand really is. And so I really appreciate you being here. But that's the one thing I'm walking away with more than anything else resounding in my head is who you are. Who you are is very important.
And let me help you with that, because I've traveled with Mark. I've spoken with Mark. We've written books together. Well, not together, but we've worked on stuff. Mark Given is one of the world's truly nice guys.
He really is.
I mean, he just is. And we have laughed together about that, Mark, over the years. He truly is. So everything he writes, everything he speaks on, what you get to see, just like this information tonight, he's the real deal, and he's one of the world's truly good guys. Mark, we'll put up your information, contact Mark Given Seminars. If anybody'd like to hire you, I'd recommend it.
Sure. I'm easy to find. It's just mark@markgiven.com.
There it is.
I'm
Keep
easy
it
to
simple.
Awesome. Mark, thank you. If you would hang on, but man, glad to see you, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was absolutely a joy.
Zan, man, I haven't seen Mark Givens in probably 8 or 10 years, and I hate, especially after today, I hate that. I loved his points. I enjoyed catching up with him. His personality is great. I love that he loves to fish, right? But I was really impressed with his 7 steps. You and I talk about a lot of things. With a couple of things I would not have had listed, and he made valid points on this. Legal representation, legal protection. I hadn't thought about that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I think about that day to day, but when I'm thinking about steps to success in 2021, that was actually pretty valid.
That is. And Mark is one of those deep thinkers. He and I have traveled together and spent hours on airplanes and hotels. And, you know, he's going to think deeper and read deeper. And this is for your listeners. That man reads a book a week, every week.
Wow.
I mean, he's a ferocious reader. I'll tell you how much he reads. I called him once. He's big at Disney. His whole family has worked for Disney. I called him once. I said, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm standing in line at Disney reading a book." I said, "Excuse me?" He goes, "I'm in one of those long lines. I just open up a book, start reading."
Wow.
Yeah.
I have never even thought about doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And I always talk about, I feel good, 26-1 advantage. This guy's got a 52-1 advantage because he's using those times standing in line at Disney to read a book. That's hilarious. That's smart. That's smart.
But that's what makes you able to write all these books. I mean, I gave him a hard time because he's a good friend, but you know, the cat's written 10 books and he's publishing another one and another one and another one. So, you know, high performance people, and the coaching came back up. I thought that was, you know, just perfect because we've heard it before and we've heard it again. You're a coach. I'm a coach. We both have coaches, you know, but I loved what he said, be a mentor and have a mentor. And you're one of my mentors. I write down stuff you say all the time.
Vice versa, yeah.
And vice versa. So, yeah, great points. But it was good to see Mark.
It was great to see Mark. And I hope people will go on the site, and we've given the opportunity at the beginning, and I'll put that back here at the bottom right now, just to go visit Mark's site. And again, I'm looking forward to you and I going fish on him. Speaking of that, look, dude, we ended up having a longer, not Mark's fault, but we got to talking and we just kind of agreed we're going to keep going with this because he has some very valid points that we want to make sure we got included. And so that cuts into some of the fun time we have, right? Meaning the fishing time. And so I know that you had a great weekend with Cameron this weekend. You guys were fly fishing, playing golf. I was fishing with my daughter. So why don't we do this? Next week, there's an opportunity. I may have a special person with me, and I hope that it works out. I'm not going to mention names, but I think this is going to work out, and what a phenomenal story that is. And he's a funny guy. But we're going to be fishing this weekend as well. So let's spend a little time. If we can work it out, we'll spend a little time with him next week. And then you and I can go through some conversations of the fishing that we've been able to do and kind of what we've learned from that as well. Does that work for you?
I like that. Let's do that next week.
That would be a lot of fun. Listen, there was a lot of meat tonight. There was a lot of meat last week. Each week's getting better. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you next week and being able to talk about life, talk about success. But, dude, I'm looking forward to catching up on some fishing with you.
Yep. I got some good video for you.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, man. Hey, tell your wife you say hello, and I'll talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.